Hey, can we just go around and say your name and what are you looking to get out of this little session? So my name is Manoj, and what I'm looking to get out is really grounding myself. I do very few events now, and each time I connect, I actually feel grounded and I get into a flow state whenever I connect with you all and we share about these murtis. So go ahead, Lara. Um,
My name is Lara. I live in Carlsbad, California, and I just like to hang out with Manoj and Kurt and Jyoti as much as I can.
and what are you looking to get out of this session?
Oh gosh, I always
Uh,
learn something, and it's just what I love to do. Just learn something new, really.
and I get to, like you said, I get to hang out with you, so it's important. Thank you, Lara. Kurt.
Oh, me. Hi, I'm Kurt. I'm in La Mesa, California, which is a suburb of San Diego. My son is home for the day, just got done Zoom schooling. So, what am I hoping to get out of this? I don't know. I mean, again, we're just kind of hanging out and talking. And so, whatever kind of comes up is what comes up. I'm sure something interesting always seems to happen. So, I'm sure it'll be a good time.
Brandy. I'm just going by who I see on the screen.
Hi, I'm Brandy. I'm in Gainesville, Florida, and I'm looking for a little inspiration. I also I really appreciate Manoj and really love this, and yeah, just to learn and be inspired. So thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Rhonda.
Hi, all. I'm Rhonda. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Just looking for a little community this week. It seemed like the good thing to do, and the description was intriguing, and I knew I could get away in time. So I'm here.
I used to live in Albuquerque. I worked at UNM for a couple of years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a great campus.
Yeah, I went down to Los Lunas and worked at the community college down there for a while.
I didn't know that.
And Leah.
Hey, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida tonight. Through teacher training, connected with this offering prior and just really enjoyed it. So back to learn more. Excited to be here.
And Liz.
Hi, yeah, I'm Liz. I was also part of the teacher training and saw your presentation last time, Manoj. I especially loved your stories of Southwest not having a high enough weight limit for you to carry everything that you needed to carry. And I think you said you were schlepping these figures all around. And so anyway, I just really enjoyed the presentation last time, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm just looking to feel a little bit of grounding today. So thanks for having me.
I love your lightness of being, Liz. And my friend David from Florida, Gravina.
Hey, Manoj. It's nice to be here. I saw the invitation in my email, and I knew I wanted to be here. So it's great to be part of this group tonight. Thanks.
Welcome to the Bhav. Christine.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, just happy to be here, and I'm grateful I have the time off today, and looking forward to hearing what the Bhav brings about.
Yes, good to see you not in the hospital.
Tell me about it.
Christine was Jyoti's nurse. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm grateful
Susan,
I had
please.
today off, and
yes.
Yeah, with all of us health and abundance, and I'm feeling Lakshmi right now, and let's bring about goodness and love and life to where we're at right now.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Susan.
Hi, I'm just here supporting and transmitting love.
Channeling, right? Always.
Yeah.
And Jay Larson. You go by Jay, right? Just Jay? You're muted.
Did that work?
Yes.
Okay. I'm using Bluetooth, so I'm trying to figure it out. Arizona, and I'm sorry I had to come on late. I'm supposed to be cooking right now, so I'm going to be cooking while I listen. What am I supposed to say?
Now you said
all
good. Anything? What are you looking for from this session?
I'm a Tara devotee, so I'm always looking for new information or information about Tara and just gathering around people in regards to Tara. Durga is high on the list too, because Durga is one of the 20. She looks like one of the 21 manifestations of Tara, and just to be around a spiritual community that understands that there are protectors and these are real, these are real protecting energy. I don't, everybody uses a different term for them, but they're real. And so, yeah.
So
it's fun and it's uplifting.
Yes, thank you. And you did a wonderful session on Tara at a retreat a couple of years ago. I still remember that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Golden, I don't know if you can talk. If not, so be it. Give him 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1. Jai Ganesh. Did I miss anyone to introduce themselves? Okay. So I want to thank Brandy. She initiated this conversation. And we're going to do 2 more sessions with Brandy's group next month and the month after that. And this is important for all of us. So that we stay in touch until we finally get to be face to face. So, which is almost there. I would love to start with a little grounding meditation, which is the Hero's Journey meditation. And then Kurt and I, we will do this together. Kurt has made some beautiful slides. So please close your eyes. And we're all living through the circle of Shiva. The circle is the hero's journey. And Kurt picked out 5 deities for today's presentation, which are right on, because they encompass the 4 quadrants of the hero's journey. So it's the 4 deities plus Shiva, which is the circle. So 5 deities in the hero's journey. And the hero's journey, the time scale can be 1 day, or the time scale can be a lifetime, or the time scale can be 1 year, whatever you wish. Because we're all living through this journey. And to get into this journey, usually there's an event that makes us go within and kayak the collective unconscious to see who we really are. The 4 main questions in philosophy is who am I? What is this world? Who is God? and what's my purpose, my swadharma. And if we go past the material world, we delve deeper into these questions. But it's not for the majority of the people. So usually there's an event that happens. That event can be an earlier life, what's called prarabdha karma. We come into this world with a backpack of karma. Some of us become spiritual without an event happening in this life. But usually there's an event. So that's what we call a Kali moment, where the Divine Mother Kali enters your life and makes you realize that things never work out as you plan. Even when it works out, it doesn't last. So the search for meaning is to go within. And that's where Kali Ma comes in, very similar to Tara. You can also say Tara is one of the Dasha Mahavidya, the 10 faces of Kali. One of the faces is Tara. So Kali is the initiator of the heroine's journey, where we get slapped around in life. For me, it was a huge setback in my professional career. So I had a Kali moment. We can all have different Kali moments. We can relate to that. And that's how I turned my focus inward to the spiritual realm. And then you meet a whole host of characters when you get into Hindu and Buddhist deities. So in the hero's journey, there's a threshold guardian, and that is Ganesh. And for people in Florida, your patron saint quarterback, Tom Brady, has a Ganesh in his locker room door. Because Ganesh initiates you into the journey, and he can also put you into the flow state. Imagine an elephant which keeps moving. The momentum is so much, it's very hard to change direction. That's the energy of Ganesh. And the mantra to Ganesh is Om Gam Ganapate Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Ganesh works hand in hand with Kali, his mother. So Kali also is the Kundalini energy. So Ganesh resides in our root chakra and activates the Kundalini Shakti. So that was the first quadrant in the hero's journey. The second quadrant, when we kayak the subconscious for archetypes, Durga comes in, because it ain't pretty when you go deep within. It's all these shadows that have crept up in our life. Sometimes the demons are outside, sometimes the demons are within. And Durga is an amazing protector. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. And then going to the third quadrant, you follow Shiva's circle, the dance of Shiva, Nataraj, the third quadrant is when you're emerging from the depths. You become like a lotus that emerges from mud. The lotus is Kamala, which is one of the names for Lakshmi, for luminosity. The mantra for Lakshmi is Om Shreem Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Shreem Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Shreem Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Then you go to the fourth quadrant where you follow Rabindranath Tagore, who the great Nobel Prize winning poet from India. He said, I dreamt that life was service, and when I woke up, I started to serve, and service is joy. And that's the energy of Tara. Very beautiful archetype for service, healing, love, compassion. So the hero, the heroine emerges back into the world. The hero, the heroine goes back metaphorically into Plato's cave, to the darkness, to help people. It can be in various ways. It can be spiritual. It can be someone you meet in the grocery store. However, you can impact people around you. The mantra to Tara is Om Ture Swaha. Om Ture Tutare Swaha. Om Tare Tutare Swaha. Om Tare Tutare Swaha. So, this is the hero's journey. We can literally invoke these deities as part of our practice with the mantras to complete us every day, every year. Gently open your eyes. Om Namah Shivaya. So I want to introduce Kurt with a question. It won't be a traditional introduction. A few years ago, Kurt and I connected pretty randomly, I'd say, at a Theosophy gathering. And, you know, the books Kurt has behind him, the Theosophists love books. And then Kurt suddenly gravitates to Murtis, you know, which are very concrete embodiments. So my question to you, Kurt, is what got you onto this hero's journey with the Murtis, the statues?
I describe myself as very average, right? Being a statistician in a former life, right? I'm looking at that bell-shaped curve, and I'm kind of like right in the middle in many ways. And I think, you know, my story would kind of resonate with a lot of people's stories, which is I went to your temple to listen to Jyoti talk about the gunas, and I saw the statues, and something inside me, right, just really fell in love with the Krishna Radha on a swing statue. I mean, of all the things, you know, all the different murtis that were there, all of the sights to be seen and taken in, that one, you know, the place that I was in my life, and the things that were important to me, what I thought were important to me really at the time, right? That was just screaming at me like, it needed to come home with me, you know? And so I didn't know what they were made out of. I didn't know anything. I was expecting them to be made out of gold or something, and it was going to be thousands of dollars. So I just kind of went to you and said, hey, the next time you come over to the lodge to talk about the Gita and cognitive behavioral therapy, because that's what we were doing at the time, right? It was a group that was trying to figure out how we could psychologically incorporate the Bhagavad Gita into a practice of when we're thinking and when we're talking and those kinds of things, how we can kind of recognize our emotions and our belief structures through that. I said, hey, can you bring one down? And you brought all three, which was the small and the medium. And I don't know the Starbucks names, but you called it like the tall and the grande and the extra,
Venti.
I don't know, whatever they're called. Venti, there you go. And by the time you showed me the medium size, I was like, all right, the price, I can't do it any more than that. You didn't even bring the big one out. But I had to take her home. Both of, Krishna and Radha, I had to take that Murti home. So that's how I got into it, was just literally seeing that and then something inside me activating. And I think that's what Jay is talking about when she says they're real. It's like a love at first sight, like I didn't look at it as this is this chunk of metal, right? I looked at it like this needs to come home with me. Like there's something there, a magnetic attraction that just needed to be with me.
I love that. And before you know, Kurt is now literally holding my hand. We're both doing this together. And then the Murtis are more to the lodge, So there's a lot of things that have happened just from a casual interaction. I love this, and that's life. So you, as part of this presentation, do you want to lead the way with slides and we can riff off each other at that time?
Yeah, I actually was kind of following along. So where would you like to start? Do you want to start with Lala, or do you want to start with the actual kind of journey statues?
Let's do the Lala first.
All right. I will share my screen. There's Lala.
So the name Lala, it actually means dear son, Lala. And, the relationship with, the supreme entity, God, consciousness, it's very unique in this tradition. Here you're viewing God as a child. Literally, Lala means a dear son. It can also be viewed as an archetype. Okay. So as Jay said, it's real external energy. It's also an internal archetype. So this is one of my favorites. This is Ganesh as a boy. And if you notice, he doesn't have a mouse. Okay. The mouse comes later in the story. But he has a huge head, the elephant head. And there's a story, right? Many of you know the story. Ganesh is the son of Shiva and Parvati. And Shiva likes to be, he loves to go meditate. And his wife, Shakti, likes to, philosophically, Shiva's consciousness and Shakti is the power of consciousness. It's like being and doing, right? So Ganesh is a product of Shiva and Shakti, which is be and do. Be, do, do, be, do, be, do, be. Yeah. That's the energy of Ganesh. So Shiva likes to go off for long meditation and just be. And then he comes home one day and he finds this boy at the entrance of a cave where his mom Shakti asks him to guard the cave. And Shiva tries to brute force his way inside the cave. And that's why Ganesh is a threshold guardian. That's why he's at the entrance. And he wouldn't allow Shiva. And they got into a huge fight. And then Ganesh's head gets chopped off. His mom, Shakti or Parvati comes out, gets mad, yells at Shiva, what have you done? No more visits to the cave. So Shiva gets really petrified and he tells his followers, go to the forest and find the first being and transplant the head. And then they found an elephant, and that's how Ganesh was created. But really, the story is very metaphorical in the sense that Ganesh is a classic liminal deity. So you have the huge elephant head on a human body. And so the elephant head is like, be, like the consciousness. And the human body is doing, So Ganesh is literally doobie, 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 doobie. That's the energy of Ganesh. And he makes you feel lucky. To me, that's a big one. Okay, look back into the times you feel lucky. You feel like you're in the flow. When you get that instant of being lucky, unexpected events happen. And that's the energy of Ganesh. The elephant, when it keeps moving, the elephant is in the subconscious, which is 90% of our mind. You can become lucky. That's really what has happened to Tom Brady. You're going to use the Florida metaphor. He has a Ganesh in his locker room door. And one of the years when he was in New England, Ganesh probably helped him deflate the football. Yeah. Imagine Tom Brady putting a Ganesh on the football. Yeah. Too much weight. So Ganesh, we need a little edge in this game of life. We need a little luck. And Ganesh helps us be lucky. To me, that's a big one. And I love this Lalla Ganesh, very adorable. The mouse comes later, and we will talk about that. What are your feelings when you look at the Lalla Ganesh, Kurt?
To me, this is that that principle of Zen mind, beginner's mind, right? Of looking at everything as if it is a brand new experience that you've never experienced it before. So even if you've had 30 breakups in your life, even if you've been fired from 20 jobs, even if you've been in, I don't know how many car accidents, right? It's the idea behind that Zen mind, beginner's mind is that's a new accident. That's a new breakup. That's a new job being lost, right? It is not, keeps happening to me over and over, right? Was what you're talking about, this notion of luck. It's the notion that, wow, I got to experience this new way of looking at life. I got to experience this new way of having these kinds of quote unquote traumas or whatever. And so then the luck aspect becomes, you start to, I think, right, from that principle, you start to look at things like, well, it could have been worse, right? Like if this is the worst that it got, if this is as bad as it gets, man, I can imagine things that are worse than that, right? So you just start to look at things and everything becomes a Jai Ganesh moment. Right? You get in a car accident, it's like, Jai Ganesh, I'm still alive. You have your spouse or whatever walk away from you and you're like, Jai Ganesh, they could have shot me with a shotgun. You know what I mean? Whatever happens to be, it's a lot better, than what it could have been. When we project our past experiences onto the current experience, I just dealt with this with my son today. He was saying when he always draws a circle, it gets messed up, right? He can't complete the drawing and he's 10, right? But he can't complete the perfect circle, but he used the word always. And like I was saying, when you and I met, from a cognitive behavioral therapy, I had to go, is it always or is it a lot, right? And so he's already starting to shape that belief structure, right? And so it becomes important to look at specifically a Ganesh like this and remind ourselves that there's a newness and a youth with children, with babies especially, where they don't know what these things are and what these experiences are. They don't really necessarily know that they're separate from all of these things. They have to be conditioned into that. And so this is a really great Murti for constantly reminding all of us that, if we look at things like it's new, if we look at things like, and you use this term a lot, isn't that interesting, right? Isn't that experience interesting? That's what I really love about this specific Murti and looking upon it, is you get this sense of, there's no judgment in the things that are happening to him because he's never experienced them in that way before, and he won't allocate meaning to it.
I love that. And that's why Ganesh is a lord of new beginnings. So when every movement appears fresh, or when you use the phrase, isn't this interesting? You actually take a step back. You become more the witness. You're able to observe yourself in this drama of life. And that makes life very flowy. I always use that word, flow state, where you're not there. You're literally, you're there, but still your ego is not there. Your body and mind does what it needs to do, but you're taking a step back and you're observing everything. And that comes from the freshness. So the Sanskrit word is adbhuta, the sense of wonder. And, for people who don't have, we created a document on the whole thing, and I'll be happy to email it to you. If you can email Brandy, I can send it to Brandy. Okay. Go ahead, Kurt.
Oh, I'm just trying to, my computer kind of freezes up. So I was trying to move on to another slide. I just didn't know which one you wanted to go to. I had to unshare to figure it out.
Number two is
the next slide was
yeah.
I was going to say the next slide was just the Nataraj, but did you want to move on to Kali? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, let's do Kali.
Okay.
Because Kali is always, it can go either way with Kali, the feelings about Kali. Can you show a picture of Kali, and then you can get back on the screen with me. So this is Kali, very frightful deity, okay? But when you get to know her, she's actually full of love and compassion. But when you look at an image of Kali, appearances are quite, she can hit you, slam you. And this is what I call the Kali moment. Imagine, that severed head she's holding. That can represent your ego. Imagine your ego being slammed. You think you're the master of the universe. Life is going swimmingly along, be it relationships, professional, and suddenly you get a Kali moment where everything just falls apart, And if you take it the right way, it's the ego that comes to the realization that it's never in charge. It's never in charge anyway, but we pretend it's in charge. That's our real teaching here. So when you look at an image of Kali, she holds a severed head. She holds a smithar, like an axe. So apparently the axe has done its job. The head is there. So the human body is about 6 gallons of blood. So if you chop off the head, the blood is gushing, And part of the blood is in a bowl she holds right there underneath the head. And then she has a trident, and I'll talk about the symbolism of that. And then she, if you look carefully, hard to see in the picture, but she has a garland, which looks like a mala, a Rudraksha mala of 54 severed heads. Okay. So that's a lot of blood. Okay. And she steps on a supine body, a dude, probably her ex-boyfriend, yeah, or her ex-husband. Picture your favorite ex and put it there. And I have a Kali in my temple, which is very interesting. That's how I can identify it's a male, because his male organ is predominantly displayed in that one. And everyone kind of laughed about it at a retreat. So what is this image about, right? So please get the camera on me, because I'm going to tell you a story. So story is the best way to sort of communicate the philosophy. All the books behind there are amazing, but people don't remember a lot of stuff, especially from books, or when you have a lot of data, show a lot of PowerPoint slides. But when you tell a story, there are so many more areas in your brain that lights up, and your cognitive level jacks up, and that's how you learn the best. And when you are a teacher, you tell the same story, it's very powerful. So the story of Kali is, there was this demon called Rakta Bija who was taken over the world. So Rakta means blood, Bija means seed. And he got that name because this demon also did yoga, but he did yoga for nefarious ends. He wanted, what are you holding, Brandy? Anything interesting? It's a bowl. Are you saying that? Okay. Okay. Hopefully it's not blood. Yeah. Jai Ma Kali.
Cacao, not blood.
Okay. So the demon, does yoga for ulterior motives, and he meditates on Shiva and chants Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And Shiva is the archetype who gets very pleased with us, when you show him some love. So Shiva, the archetypes are like organs around the self. And the Shiva is the closest to the heart. So Shiva is very emotional, in the mythology. He's a very emotional dude. He can go high or low. He can get very pleased with you, or he can get very angry. A bit on the bipolar side, but so this demon meditates on Shiva. Shiva feels the love and comes up to the demon and says, hey, what do you want? The demon said, I want to be immortal. Shiva said, hey, the body has to die for everyone, right? But I'll give you the next best thing. Nobody can kill you in battle, because when a drop of blood falls on the ground, you will always be cloned. And the demon said, I'll take it. So instead of going deeper on the yogic path, he gets distracted with these powers called siddhis. And he starts to torture people. And people fight back, and blood splatters, and all these demons, form a huge army. It's called Rakta Bija, seeds of blood. Each blood drop becomes a seed. So people go to Shiva and said, hey, what have you done? You created a Frankenstein, save us. Shiva said, hey, man, I'm too busy meditating. Remember, Shiva loves to be. So he says, let me be. I'm just meditating. Okay. You want something from me? You do the meditation like the demon did. You can't just come up to me and ask for favors. So, but I'll give you a hint. Go to my wife, Shakti. Go to the cave. So all the people went to the cave. And of course, Ganesh was there at the entrance, and they respectfully bowed to Ganesh. So the Ganesh archetype is for anything new you do in your life. A new day, a new job, a new business. You bow to Ganesh, So they all bow to Ganesh. They go to Shakti, and she said, okay, I'll help you. So I'm going to use some sexist jokes. It's just a joke. It's always the men who make a mess of things, right? And the woman comes to rescue the world. Yeah. This is always a safe haven for me when I crack the joke this way. Yeah. So Shakti says, I'm going to help you. And from her emerges Kali. So Shakti becomes Kali. Shakti is Shiva's wife. So Kali is nothing more than Shiva's wife. It's like you have different personas you wear, mask, right? In Carl Jung's journey of individuation, we start out with a persona, the mask we wear. And then underneath the persona is the shadow, right? The shadow self. Underneath that is the ego. Underneath that is the archetypes. And then the self is there. So the persona of Kali is Shakti. So you're a mom, you're a yoga teacher, you're a employee, but you have different roles you play. Okay. So she comes into battle and she's figured it out. This demon has this power. So what she does is she has to take care of the riffraff demons. So she chops off all their heads and makes a garland. So all these heads that keep proliferating represent what is called samskaras in our life. Same scars, samskaras, the addictive tendencies, the stuff that prevents us from going deeper on the path. It's the stuff that clouds us to be in this material life. The samskaras can be addiction to booze, sex, drugs, food, money, power. There's so many addictions, internet. So Kali removes the addictions. That's why she's the divine mother who comes to save us. Very powerful. She knows what's good for us. And then she chops the head of the main demon and sticks a bowl underneath. So there's no more blood dripping. So she hits at the root cause. That's really what Kali does. And the root cause in the spiritual path is called avidya, right? Avidya. Vidya means to know. Avidya means ignorance. So the ignorance of who we really are, she removes that. And the trident she holds in the other hand represents the kundalini that gets awakened. So the three prongs of the trident are the Ida Nadi, Pingala Nadi, and the Sushumna. And I know I'm going everywhere. So if you have any questions, please ask away. Raise your hand or type a question or interject. And then finally, there's no more demons to be killed. And she's drinking all this blood, So imagine Brandy's mug overflowing with the good stuff. Yeah, the blood is the negative energies. Kali drinks the negative energies that doesn't serve us. So each time Kali drinks blood, it's good for you. And she says, I want more. I want more. And she starts to look for more blood. And she starts to dance. And she's so powerful, the earth starts to shake. And Shiva, who's like being and meditating, he starts to shake either too. And the whole world gets petrified. You can make a case the whole world is going through a Kali moment since last March. Okay, that was a major Kali moment. So people go to Shiva and says, hey man, your wife is going on the deep end, try to save us. So Shiva doesn't try to rationalize with her. What he does is he just goes and lies down in front of her. And she steps on him and realizes it's a husband and sticks her tongue out and cools down. So that's a pose in yoga to cool down. Even dogs do that, right? It's a cool down pose. So Kali is the doing that gets arrested by Shiva, the being. So the doing part of us can get arrested to realize the Shiva consciousness. And when you look carefully at every Kali Murti, she doesn't step on Shiva by happenstance. She actually steps on Shiva's heart. The heart is the seat of consciousness. So the way to approach Shiva consciousness is through Kali. So Kali is a gateway to Shiva. Even the tongue hanging out is a lingam, and the mouth, the cave, is the yoni. So Kali is literally the energy of Shiva Shakti, doing and being. So what are your thoughts on Kali? I've never heard you speak on Kali, Kurt.
Something that just came up, again, I like to bring in all the different traditions that I read, right? Being the Theosophist, I don't just do Vedanta. But when this is also a Jungian type psychological type of a thing, but when you talk about Gurdjieff's work, he would talk about the eyes, right? All of our eyes. I like this and I like that. Well, in the same body, I think we like to call it the ego, right? In kind of modern nomenclature. That's what we call the ego. The ego is this thing that likes desires. But there's times when I like chocolate and there's times when I don't. It's the same person, right, who says, oh, I like the taste of chocolate, but it's not good for me. So now you've got two conflicting aspects of your personality that are fighting over the value of chocolate, right? And so again, this notion that we have an infinite number of eyes. We have so many things that are attaching to things, right? And so you talked about those severed heads being samskaras, these addictions, but I was kind of envisioning them that as our eyes, right? All of the things in which we attach something to, a desire, a longing, whatever. And so Kali is coming through when you're when you understand her and you're devoted to her, she's coming through and you're asking her, can you please remove these eyes, right? Because realistically, there's a part of me that's attaching to so many things and their belief structures, they're not real. From a Vedantic perspective, none of those things are real, right? So Kali's coming through and saying, no, you don't need to have that attachment to chocolate. You don't need to have that attachment to not wanting chocolate, right? Because both of those are within you. Right? I love my samosas, but yet I know if I have too many of them, right, I'm not really going to love them anymore as I try to hike up a mountain, And so those different attachments, Kali is coming through and trying to take those out. I've always felt a real, like, as this divine mother, maybe it's just my own personality, but, my son, he gets discipline from me, right? I'm a hard, right? I'm kind of harsh with him sometimes, and sometimes he is my Krishna to my Radha, you know what I mean? And I kind of look at Kali the same way, right? Which is sometimes being a parent, right, doesn't mean just letting your child run around and go crazy. Sometimes you have to set boundaries so that they can learn, not to run off a cliff or those kinds of things. And I look at Kali the same way as she kind of comes along and removes those things that we don't need, but also kind of sets boundaries and says, you kind of went too far here, right? You've gone too far into this addiction, too far into these eyes. Let me help to take those from you.
So the other thing that just came to me is she actually wears the skulls, the garland, the eyes. And, what is the world in Vedanta? When you look at something, you create that. The world doesn't exist until you perceive it. And that applies to Zoom also. When we look at each other, we're defining each other, So it's important to realize that these experiences, the vasanas, the samskaras, we can coexist with them. That's why Kali wears them. She doesn't throw them away. She wears them. We can come to a point in our lives where they do not manipulate us. We can be a master of these, because these emotions, you can't help it. They'll just come up. You can't say, if I ask you not to think of a monkey, you're going to go right there, right? But you don't have to indulge in them. You don't have to create more heads, more eyes. That's why Kali wears them on our behalf. It's a very powerful thing. And then she transmutes them to the ultimate desire for Kundalini awakening. So Kali is very tantric. Tantra is alchemy, a transmutation of these mundane material desires to the spiritual desire for awakening. And I just want to answer Christine's question to shine a light on avidya. So vidya means to know. Like the word video in English comes from Sanskrit, vidya. Many of the English words come from Sanskrit, by the way. That's why Sanskrit is a language for AI. NASA is using Sanskrit for AI work. And I've talked to some professors in cognitive science about that, computer science. Why is Sanskrit so powerful? So vidya means to know. Avidya is it's like darkness. It's like Plato's cave is dark. What do? You bring light in. So when you bring light in, the darkness doesn't exist anymore. So was it really there? It was never there. We're trying to get rid of something which is never there. Avidya is something we're making it up. We're doing MSU, which is make shit up. Yeah. When the shit is not there, it's totally, it's in our mind. Okay. So the way out is, that's why Kali sticks a bowl and chops the severed head, the root cause. That's how she removes avidya, is through the ego. The severed head represents the ego. When you remove the ego, you remove the stuff, all the other stuff. Everything is gone when you hit the root cause. So Kali is a very powerful archetype. I hope that made sense to you, Christine. And please ask me if you have any other questions.
Yeah, that was great.
And
you've mentioned Plato's cave a couple times, and I don't know how many people here understand what that is. So to try to do it really quickly, idea of, and this is the short version, right? The idea of Plato's cave is that there are people who are locked in place, staring at a cave wall, and so they can't move any part of their head. They're kind of looking forward, and behind them is a fire or a light, an artificial light. And so they're seeing shadows projected from behind them onto the cave wall. And they are told that's reality, right? They are told that what you're seeing is real, but they don't know anything other than what is placed right in front of them. And so then one of the people in the cave is able to get free and walks out. And as this person walks out, he realizes that the light, there is light, but it's coming from everywhere. Right now, it's not just this fire, it's the sunlight, it's everything. And so the metaphor that we're supposed to be learning from, and this is kind of part of this hero's journey, is that what do we do then? When we realize, when we have had avidya by sitting in the cave and being told what to see and told how to perceive it, right? And we are now conditioned and, for lack of a better word, propagandized, right? And then once we see the real light, once we have vidya, knowledge, we know that there's more now, right? Do we go off on our own and leave those behind to be stuck in that situation? Or do we re-enter the cave in order to try to kind of wake them up and help get them to be released? So that's kind of the short version of what Plato's cave is.
So the question is, when you get enlightened, do you regress back? No, because the light is the only thing there is. Everything else is fake news. Yeah. So Kali is a very powerful archetype for spiritual awakening, actually. So she shows us the possibilities there is. Do you want to move ahead, Kurt, to the next one?
Yeah, we have 20 minutes. I was thinking we'll just go to Durga.
Yeah, let's do Durga.
Okay.
I'm going to bring up Durga right here.
Oh, I'll just leave you on the screen then.
Yeah, I have a Venti Durga here with me.
I'm never going to Starbucks just to learn those different sizes. I'm going to stick with my small, medium, and large.
All right. That's a beautiful Durga. This is about 17 inches high, 9 plus. Yeah. It's a triple finish of gold, brown, and silver. So Durga is also fierce, but you can say she's like Kali light. Yeah, she's not as intense as Kali. And, she's on a lion. That's a big, her vehicle here is the lion. How cool is that, right? To ride a tiger or a lion. And it's like, I always joke about it. It's like Kill Bill, the movie by Quentin Tarantino, where the bride has weapons. And she's like a bride. This is literally called Maharani Durga, the Queen Durga. And she has all these weapons. And Durga is an archetype for all these archetypes. So Durga is like a double archetype. Okay. In other words, in the story, all the gods and goddesses came together and created an archetype, Durga. So it's like anything else. There's a wisdom of the crowds. Okay, so when enough people get together and believe in something, that becomes the temporary reality. Like, for instance, the stock market. How do you think a stock price is arrived at? When millions of millions people do the bidding, buying, selling, there's a wisdom of the crowds to define something. Same with these archetypes. These are the original memes. Okay. So when you have 330 million gods and goddesses, and they come up with an archetype to protect themselves because they got into trouble, then Durga comes in. So Durga is like a double archetype. She's, we have all these other archetypes, Ganesh, Shiva, Lakshmi, Kali, but Durga is an archetype for all of them. And she's typically a second quadrant in the hero's journey. So I'm going to define what a quadrant is, right? Because I referred to it a couple times. So this is the dance of Shiva. And the first quadrant is the material world. And then we have the Kali moment I talked about, right? And then you have the threshold guardian, that's Ganesh. And then Durga is the archetype for the second quadrant, where she helps you work on your shadow. Perhaps she helps you work with people in your life who are not resonant with your spiritual direction. So the demons can be inside or outside. Very powerful archetype, Durga. And before we get to the third quadrant, I just want to explain what Shiva is. So the Shiva is for the yogic transformation. So the circle is the world we create. We want to transform. We want to come into a new world. When you wake up in the morning, you have a purpose. I talked about it last time. It's called Ikagai in Japanese. The reason we all wake up. If you don't have a reason, life can really wear you down. You know, we eat, we eat, poop, and that's it. And then you go to bed, right? It's like the myth of Sisyphus, where you roll the rock up the hill and the rock falls down. Roll the rock up the hill, the rock falls down. There has to be a higher meaning. In my opinion, again, I'm not a postmodernism kind of guy where it's life is like nihilistic. Remember the nihilistic guys in the what's that movie? The Dude Abides. What's the name
Big
of the movie?
Lebowski.
Big Lebowski. There has to be a grand underlying meaning in life. Okay, nihilism is the world is empty of meaning. That's postmodernism. And for us to wake up in the morning or do something new is really what gives life meaning. So we might ultimately we're still rolling the rock up the hill, but we're pretending there's a purpose. Okay, it's a we know it's a game, but we still engage in it. So the circle is a world we create. The flame he holds in his left hand is the fire in the belly we need to transform. It's like the cortisol moments that happen when you wake up in the morning. That's really what gives you the energy to get out of bed. You know, when you actually measure the hormones, that's the highest in the morning, the cortisol. And then this is the hair, dreadlocks. And this is the drum, the damaru, which is the pulse beat of transformation. Everything is vibratory, nothing is static. And when you embark on change, like I was in India a year ago, and I literally came around this time, and the world changed. You know, Kurt and I went to Sedona, and we came right back. The yoga festival got canceled. The world changed in an instant. And then Jyoti came, and our lives got changed in an instant. And one has to have that. How do I phrase it? The purpose to keep us going through life. Otherwise, with what we've been through personally, with the medical issues, it can literally drag you down. Okay, so one has to have that feeling of freshness, the feeling of incremental progress, new beginnings. So even when stuff happens, we look at the brighter side. At least it's not that bad. Okay, so the stuff that really can drag us down is this being of forgetfulness, this apasmara. You know, forgetfulness is always there. So when I came back last year, I literally walk into a panic. I go to a grocery store, Sprouts, near my house in San Diego, and there's a huge run on rice and all the essential supplies, you know. Remember those days, Lara? And, you know, literally I'm seeing like the bin of rice, and it's disappearing in front of me. And I grab a plastic bag, and I'm very careful to, you know, not touch anything or use the hand sanitizer. And then suddenly I couldn't open that damn plastic bag. You know, I hate those plastic bags at Sprouts. So I used to have to use my lips to wet it and open it, which is very crude. Jyoti hates that. And I realized, oh shit, you know, I touched my lips, my tongue. So I immediately grabbed a whole bunch of, they used to have those wet hand, sanitizer cloths, and I stuffed it in my mouth. Why? Because I forgot. I went through the habitual thing of using my tongue on the plastic bag. It's horrible, it's gross, but you know, I forgot. So that's this being of forgetfulness. This is always there in our lives, apasmara. So what does Shiva do? He pushes it down. And he teaches us life is about creation and destruction simultaneously. But when you embark on change, we have also the feelings of uncertainty, right? We get anxious. We start to wonder, hey, is this going to work out? So for that, Shiva raises his foot. This is where the spiritual work comes in and points to his foot. What that means is you got to let it go. You can do the work, but the results are not up to you. Literally, it's not up to you. So this gesture, hand gesturing to his feet, it's a very Eastern gesture. You know, when you look at a wise person, a guru, you touch their feet, but what it represents is not the body. You're touching something, you're surrendering to something far bigger. And the word surrender is not like giving up. It's like literally you are okay with what is. You accept what is. Okay. When you have resistance, that's how the inner conflict happens. Okay. And then when you surrender, with the other hand, he does this, the fearlessness, Abhaya Mudra. So it's a very beautiful archetype for transformation. Give it up for Kurt. Go ahead, Kurt.
You know, I was just kind of picturing, and these are all like new insights that come in when you're talking. But what I was envisioning here was this apasmara being this lower human ego, right? And Shiva being this higher divine ego and rising up above. So we talk about the pushing down part, but also there's this notion of I'm rising above these challenges. I'm rising above this ignorance. What I'm forgetting is real and what is not real. So I kind of saw that in this as you were talking. And the other part that I wanted you to touch on through the storytelling is he has been attacked in this dance and in this murti and in this pose. He has been attacked by people, right? There are people who are angry at him and they are cursing, for lack of a better word, right? They are cursing and casting spells and throwing things at him. And this is what we deal with in our lives, right? We deal with things coming at us all the time, right? Whether it's someone's hate or whether it's our own hate towards ourselves, our own disgust that we have over something that we did. These are our body, our mentality being attacked. And so I was hoping you could kind of touch upon these other adornments that you haven't touched on yet. But it shows, again, that rising up from not letting ignorance, not letting the negativity bring us down, that we can use this and wear it like badges of honor.
So the number 2 mythologist in England, after J.K. Rowling, is Terry Pratchett, an atheist. And he said mythology and archetypes are where the rising ape meets the falling angel. And that's us. This is the rising ape, and you have the falling angel, and that's how Shiva gets created. Okay. And the story Kurt was referring to is I'm going to give you a quick Reader's Digest version of the story, and then I'm going to move to Lakshmi and have Brandy talk about her feelings for the Lakshmi she has. So there was this group of sages in a forest, and they thought they had life figured out. It got too comfortable. They were set in their ways. They had all the spiritual powers. They had good wives, good relationships, good businesses. And the real challenge in life is, how do you get that sense of wonder, that freshness? How do you not appear jaded? See, even when you're rolling the rock up the hill, like the myth of Sisyphus, can you look upon it as fresh each time? Can you look upon your daily walks as fresh? Can you look upon your yogic practice as fresh? Can you look upon your existing relationships with a sense of wonder? Can you see everything through fresh eyes? And these sages had lost it, and we can lose it, right? Especially in the pandemic, where things are appearing the same old stuff. So Shiva teaches them a lesson, and he walks into the forest buck naked, and he excites the woman folk who are the wives of the sages. And the sages get mad. They do a fire sacrifice, and they literally from that fire, they are able to, through their siddhis powers, through all kinds of things, to attack Shiva. Because remember, Shiva is the source of their wives getting intensely attracted. He rouses people from their stupor, so to speak. So if you're in a tub of hot water, it gets jaded. What do? You slosh things around. So Shiva is the energy in us that sloshes things around in your life. Okay. So they, from the fire sacrifice, they threw all kinds of things at Shiva. The first thing they threw was like a tiger, and Shiva skins the tiger and wears the tiger skin as a speedo. Yeah, this was the original speedo, tiger skin. But when you see the sages, they always meditate on tiger skin in the old days, because the skin prevents the energy from dissipating. Okay. And then they threw like fires at Shiva. He consolidates the fire. They threw snakes at Shiva. He wears the snakes as decoration. And finally, they threw a wriggling demon, and that becomes Apasmara. And Shiva steps on the demon and starts to dance. And this dance is literally the dance of yoga. Yoga comes from this dance. Another time I'll get into that story. Okay. So if there's one archetype that literally represents yoga, the way to live as a yogi, the way to live life. Okay, we are all yogis. If you can sit through 75 minutes of this lecture, you're a yogi. There's something here. You're a yogi because these archetypes are jumping up. Okay, this is not happenstance. The way Rhonda has embraced Ganesh, Shiva, the meditating Shiva, amazing archetype. You are all yogis. So the Shiva is the dance to bring up the archetypes within us and live a full life, okay, where everything is fresh. Then you have the third quadrant where you're rising. Remember, you're rising up. And that's where Lakshmi comes in, right? Rising from the mud. You probably have the Lakshmi in the studio, Brandy. So I'll bring a Lakshmi, which is not quite as large as you, because you got the venti. But this is the Lakshmi archetype. 4 hands, the 2 lotuses. This hand, she gives you abundance. She's a goddess of abundance. The abundance I'm referring is material as well as spiritual. Okay. When you are expanding, abundance is that feeling. Yeah. then you attract abundance, okay, in whatever form there is. So this is called the Varada Mudra, the mudra for abundance. And this is the fearlessness, Abhaya Mudra. So Brandy and I had a conversation and she decided to go for the Lakshmi. Please share with us, Brandy, what are your thoughts on Lakshmi?
Yeah, so it was a few months ago that I received her and I brought her into the studio here, and it felt like the right energy to bring in just a time of transformation and needing to make big shifts. And my first thought always with abundance has always been of a financial way. That's like the first thing, but I realized it's so much more what I needed. So yes, like transitioning out of the last year and what all that meant, but also I realized a big thing for me, and part of it is realized with what I do with the statue. So I come in days that I teach here and I sit and I chant a Bija mantra and I play harmonium to Lakshmi, and doing that, it has reminded me of the abundance of time. Like that's a big thing. So it's not just, I think about this original idea, but the idea of abundant time. I'm really good at saying I'm too busy, I don't have time, this and that. And I'm like, no, but I do. And these things are important. So it's really brought up a lot for me of realizing the importance of different things in my life, being able to prioritize with the simple act of sitting in front of her and chanting in the morning. And so it's really just brought in different aspects for me of what that means, of different ways to bring in and cultivate abundance in my life with my relationships, with people that come into the studio. And even I feel like since she's been in the studio, different things have manifested. Like, I don't know if y'all can see the stand that she's on are handmade cypress stumps from the river close by to where the studio is. That's one of the students made for her, which was just amazing. So not something I asked for, something that just happened to come. So these things keep coming in as I create space. They're able to come in. And so, yeah, that's kind of my take. Yeah.
I love that. And one of the things you shared is abundance of time. That's a beautiful way to look at what we are all going through. We're already abundant. Some of us know it, some of us don't. And the abundance of time is a beautiful concept. Thank you. I want to show you one last archetype, the fourth quadrant. And then I'm going to ask final words from Kurt on the whole journey. Okay. So we will do 2 other talks on all 4 quadrants. We'll bring in more archetypes. But this is a very beautiful archetype, the Tara archetype. Remember I said it's about service. And this is literally the 4th quadrant where the hero or the heroine figures out, hey, what is my purpose? Who is God? Who am I? What is the world? And the answer is one thing. We are all consciousness, okay? And the life has greater meaning when it's of service. And I do view many yoga teachers as really embodiment of Tara, because it's definitely not a career profession where you're supposed to make a lot of money. So that shows abundance is more a Tara-like abundance for service. So this is abundance of service. So I'm going to, in the interest of time, I'm going to have Kurt give the final word here on the whole thing.
You know, this is the title of this was the Yogic, the Hindu and Buddhist deities and the Yogic Journey, right? And yoga is union. Yoga is union with the divine, union with the oneness, right? The self. There's lots of different words that we can use to describe what that is that we're uniting with. But these archetypes, as Jay had said in the beginning, they're real. Carl Jung talks about them being something inside of us. Joseph Campbell talks about them being a mythology that is shared across all cultures around the world, right? So all of that is true. They are inside of us and they are outside of us, but ultimately they are all coming from the same source. right? And that's what you were alluding to before. If Shiva is consciousness, in one of the slides that I had prepared, I put on there kind of everything starts and ends with Shiva, right? Everything starts and ends. It's not a closed loop, but we have to look at that as a circle, right? There is no beginning and no end, right? The causeless cause of everything. That is Shiva. That's why he can be considered the destroyer, right? At the same time that he is considered the creator and the preserver. And so I think that's the most important thing, that when all of us are in our journey, whether it's a yogic, an actual practicing of asana and those kinds of things, or whether it's a yogic from the perspective of I am just trying to reconnect with the divine, everything can be looked at in that way. And I think these archetypes, these Murtis, these energies, however we want to describe them, if we're consciously aware of them while we are doing our work, right? While we are being and while we are doing, if we are consciously aware of them, then that presence is really what I think each one of them embodies in some way. You know, Shiva embodies that presence eternally. Ganesh embodies that presence eternally in different ways. They manifest in different ways. As Brandy said, you know, we think of abundance lots of times financially because we're in this world, this Maya, this illusion that says we have to have money. But when we start to let go of that attachment, right, when that little skull on Kali's necklace is now severed, the attachment, not the fact that there is money, that's not disintegrated. It's the attachment to that, right? When we start to recognize and let go of those things, then we open ourselves up. Those burdens become less and less and less. And that lower ego fades away and that higher ego comes in, and that union really starts to happen.
So each of us has a story. And then you have this mythology, the stories behind how they live their lives. And all our stories is already reflected there. So there's our story, there's a mythology, and then there's a murti with all the symbols. So it's a triangle. That's why in these talks, I would very much, I like to involve people. And when you come to our retreats, it ends up being a big party. So the next retreat is going to be in April, and the title is going to be Gana Party On. Yeah, just like the mantra Ganapati Om, it's going to be Gana Party On. And I'm already working on new jokes. This is going to be spiritual stand-up comedy. Everyone's going to share, everyone's going to laugh. It's a Bollywood movie, there's going to be crying. I had people dance the last time to Princess Purple Rain. Christine was literally growing it up there. Yeah. So we're going to come together in a bang. Okay. So there's already a retreat scheduled in April. It just the weekend needs to be defined. Jyoti and I are getting a vaccine this Sunday. Even if you're vaccine hesitant or you vaccine denier, everyone is welcome because we all have different viewpoints. I'm not here. This is not a religion. This is not a cult. What's the difference between a religion and a cult? It's just the number of believers. Yeah, we are all different. And that differentness has to be cherished. So I would love to see you in person soon. Jai Ganesh.